Hello and welcome to Fallthrough, your source for deep conversations about software, technology, and computing. I'm your host, Chris Brando, also known as Scriptable, and on today's episode, it is Matt and me and Steve. We've got Steve back. There's so much to talk with Steve about, and I think most notably, Mythos, obviously, Mythos and Fable. We gotta have a conversation about that. We're also gonna have a few other, mostly AI-related conversations, like Siri AI, since, WWDC was a couple of weeks ago. We just got through that. And, wherever else the conversation may take us. As per usual, we will have bonus content for our supporters. If you're not a supporter, you should head on over to fallthrough.fm/subscribe and sign up today. And if you're not following us on socials, please give us a follow there. We're fallthrough.fm pretty much everywhere. And if you're on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. It helps us out a ton. And with that, let's get into the episode. Hello, viewer/listener. How are you doing today? I'm doing okay. Minus, I just had a huge technical difficulties glitch. I think I have a dead keyboard now, so my morning's been kind of crazy. Aside from that, doing pretty well. But I've got two panelists with me today. Got Matt and Steve. Matt, how are you doing today?
Good. I been getting back to work, and it's been good. But also, I like spending time with my baby, so there's that.
The push and pull, the pull from two different directions. It's like, I want to work, but I also want to hang out with my kids. My kid's cool.
Yeah, how do I just not work anymore? How does that work?
It just means you're a good dad, sir. It just means you're a good dad. Steve, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Lots of stuff going on as always, but stuff's good for the most part. We'll talk about Mythos in a minute. or Fable, I guess.
Yeah. Actually, why don't we just start off with that? Steve, I wish we could have had you on last week because we would have made the conversation more interesting, but we have you here now to talk about Mythos and Fable, because I think you're, of the three of us, the one who's probably was able to use it the most before it was ripped away from us by the good old U.S. government.
Yes, I deliberately. So, okay. One, I'm really sad that it's gone, but I have complicated feelings about feeling sad about it being gone. But the most important thing is I used my entire weekly allotment the first week of Fable. And so I have some thoughts. What I decided to do was, so I've not had, life has been busy. Matt, as you just said, you want to spend time with your kids. And I also, want to spend time with family as opposed to being on a computer 24/7. And so this is a new thing in my life. But so I haven't been working on Rue, my programming language, since January because I've been busy, doing other things. And that was always a side project. And so that's kind of, I put protecting my video game time above my working on open source projects time. So I have not been really working on my programming language since then. And so whenever I heard about Fable coming out, I had really wanted to try it. And I had realized a couple of things simultaneously. One, I had been actually thinking about downgrading my Claude subscription personally, because while I used my work account at work, I had not been doing open source work on my own really. And so I hadn't been using it very much. And two, the fact that they were only going to be allowing Fable to be used for 2 weeks was still interesting, though. So I was like, well, let me at least before I consider downgrading, let me Fable max it a bit and see how that goes. Because one of the broader shifts that's been happening lately, I don't know if you all talked about this one or not, is leaning into the asynchronous aspect of agentic engineering. And so a lot of people are talking about loops lately. And I do think that's productive, but I don't go off a tangent on a tangent. But the important part is basically I said to Fable, I was like, hey, I'm busy and I'm working. But here's a project I haven't touched since January. Here is a brand new linear board. Can you do an evaluation of everything about the project, file issues for the things that you find, categorize those issues, and then just get to work? And I didn't prompt it a crazy amount more than that. It was a little bit more than that, but it wasn't like I was writing pages and pages of detailed prompts. But I basically got into this place with it where I had it spin up 4 simultaneous workspaces, and then either file new bugs, do a bug finding path search, and then do 2 or 3 iterations of just knocking bugs out and then doing that over and over again. And so I deliberately, because I was trying to burn up my entire weekly allocation in a couple days, let it just go ham. And basically in 3 days it successfully shepherded 95 PRs through the process of fixing things. And I say shepherded because it was a little more than just like submitting code and merging it. But anyway, that was very, very interesting. And then I went away for the weekend and I was like, okay, this next week, what I really want to try to do is not burn my entire weekly allocation in 3 days. I want to see if I could like try to dial it back a little bit and see if I can get this in a sustainable place. So maybe that means like Mythos or Fable for orchestration, but Opus for implementation or something like that. But I was excited to do a second iteration of the experiment. And then the government turned it off. And so now I've been like hankering for, continuing that experiment. And so that's one of the things that's been like a bummer, is because I was like legitimately excited to like try this, because again, like for a side project that's going on in the background, this style of like, I don't really need to pay attention and it just kind of does the development for me is very interesting. And I wanted to continue trying that out, because this is a project that like is just purely for me. And so if it breaks everything, like it doesn't matter. There's like basically zero downside risk here, but a lot of interesting sort of like upside going on. So that's the high level bits of my like Fable experiment. But the fact that I've not been able to continue playing with it has been a bummer. And then also it's just I do think that it is while I did like mostly let it work autonomously, I did at times check in or pay attention or talk to it about some stuff as well when I did have a little bit of free time. And so I do also have some like thoughts about it as a model, which are interesting. But that's like the before I continue yapping on, that's like the background of the me and Fable story. So yeah.
I didn't even get a chance to use Fable. I didn't even get a chance. Every time I tried to use it, it was like, oh, your prompt is scary. I'm going to bump you down to 4.8. And I was like, oh, okay, bye. And then I just left. And then, it was turned off. And they made you know it was turned off. Anytime you open anything Claude related, It was like, by the way, hey, Fable, gone. Learn more. I'm like, bro, yeah. I don't care. I don't even use you. I don't even think about you. But I'm glad to see that you got some use out of it. Do we think, is Fable even coming back? Like, I don't even know what's going on with that now. I haven't like caught up on the news. Like, is it dead or is it on hiatus?
It's on hiatus, and it depends on who you believe about whether or not it will come back and when. Because ultimately, well, so there's a couple different things going on. The first one is just the general like how much of this is because Anthropic is woke and gay. And so therefore the government is interested in messing with it. And two is like how there's a bill that's going through the House right now, I think, that has large bipartisan support that basically says the president can't use export controls on frontier models development because it harms the country or whatever. And so there's also like a political battle over this as like a thing. And the history of export controls and technology is really, really interesting in general. And so this is kind of like the latest. It's so funny as programmers how we like end up knowing a lot about certain chunks of law. And I don't mean in the way that lawyers do, but I mean that like our work interacts with the law, like in certain chunks of it in very specific ways. And so it's like, why do I know a lot about US export law? Well, because I've been following it since I was 8 years old because of Apple being subject to export controls in the 90s because, of this kind of stuff. And so there's that whole avenue of things. But basically like everyone is working on it and people want it to be a thing, but we don't know in what form. We don't know if it's going to be, this just gets pulled back for whatever reason in general. We don't know if this is because Anthropic rolls out, like show your driver's license or you can't use Claude like as a thing. Like that is definitely like a feasible path forward, even though it's like not a great one. And we also don't really know the secondary knock-on effects of, I've seen a lot of like non-US people be like, well, time to get that European sovereignty movement going a little stronger, because if the US can just take frontier models away from us at any time, we need to make sure that we're not subject to the whims of the US executive, which is a sentiment I understand. So, there's also that going on too. So we shall see.
I guess to me, it's like, okay, is that all? I guess that's good enough reason to ban it depending on who you ask. But like, were you seeing, oh my God, this model is wild, it has to be contained?
The government said that it really up the NSA's stuff like quickly. So that, or it was the FBI, one or the other, some sort of part of the national security apparatus. Mythos was apparently able to pop boxes in hours. And so that is the core problem here. There's a combo of like there's like Amazon's involvement, which is like interesting and complicated, but then there's also like the government itself, apparently, and both of those things happening at sort of the same time is like the reason, the stated reason why this happened. So it's not the like idea of the government retaliating against Anthropic for the Department of War stuff, but like a slightly more realistic. There basically was like Mythos. I think maybe it might have been that Mythos, not Fable, was the one that did the stuff to the government systems, but then the jailbreak from Amazon meant that you could get Fable to do the same thing. I think that is actually, now that I'm trying to put this back in cache, that's like the situation. But yes,
Gotcha.
That is my understanding, is that there was actual like basically like Mythos is able to do this stuff badly or well, depending on which way you want to frame it. And then Fable was supposed to not let it do that. And then Amazon's jailbreak let it be able to do that. And so they're worried about people being able to do that and therefore shut it down. And that's also why the like people are saying like ChatGPT provides equivalent functionality, like might literally be true, but there's not an existence proof of it doing the thing in the same way that there is with Mythos and Fable. And so that's why the government cares more about like this is another weird way in which the law is not the way programmers would like to think about the law, which is like it applies equally in all circumstances. They assume like this is based on some sort of capability number and the model has gone over the number and therefore we've banned it. And so, you know, Codex is also over the number, therefore we should also ban it. It's like, that's not how this works, like particularly. Yeah.
So that is interesting, that whole it ran through the NSA and like hacked all their stuff. I also wonder, like,
this is also like a quote from one official, like we know no more details, just also to be clear. So like there's also you know, like how serious is that, and is that person telling the truth and to what degree is like, you know, important as well. But yeah,
because it's like it doesn't, I mean, I only use Fable for like a little bit, but it didn't feel like it felt more powerful in some ways than Opus, but it didn't feel like this can do something that's like that could, like, being able to ransack the NSA does not feel like it's something that it's like this model's so much better that it's capable of doing. So I mean, I guess that makes sense to me now, that like the fact that it can basically be a software engineer, like even like maybe not the best of software engineers, but a software engineer that could run 24/7, that does pose a pretty big risk to a lot of systems within the country. Because it's like, okay, yeah, you can just ransack, you just run through stuff and do stuff, and like anybody that had a cloud account would be able to do this. So it's not really just the U.S. government; it's like any institution that has, you know, that was susceptible to hacking before is now super susceptible to it. So that does seem like a good reason to ban it. I mean, we talked on the last episode about the PlayStation 2 being export controlled when it came out, and it's like a similar thing where you're like, it's just a video game console. It's like, oh no, you can build a supercomputer out of this, and that is something that we probably don't want our adversaries doing, you know, at the time. At least you wouldn't build a very good supercomputer out of PS2s today, but 25 years ago, or 20, when did the PS2 come out?
God,
20 years ago?
Don't say those words.
20.
It was a while ago. Anyway. When it came out, it was a powerful enough, the chip in it was powerful enough to build supercomputers out of. So we were like, oh no, we can't just give this to anybody. It is interesting that they export controlled it. I guess export controls in general also apply internally to people working at the company, but that's also just like a whole other aspect of this. That's like, oh yeah, they really couldn't just, even if for their external customers, they were like, you got to show us your ID. Internal controls for that, it's just like an insane thing to try and want to do.
It's like snow day for Carpathy, because he's not a citizen, so he can't.
I forgot about that for a second, because that's like maybe that was the reason all along. They're like, I don't want this particular person to have access to this. I mean,
I mean, I'm
that'd
sure
be
he's
like that,
doing
right?
stuff that's not. I mean, like the thing is, it's like it's an expert control on a specific model, right? So like
No,
he's
I
not
do the
like,
thing where like I put my arms through your arms and
yeah. If I make Opus prompt Mythos, does that count as like yeah?
I wonder if this is
All I
also
did was
why
create a linear ticket. I have no idea how this happens.
Yeah, exactly, right.
I do wonder if this is why they were freaking out so much a couple months ago when they were like, this thing is so dangerous, is because of all of the autonomous working of it.
Yeah.
And the ability for it to autonomously find the book, which is kind of like, it's fascinating that they could not explain that, or that was not explained well when they were talking about this model, which makes it feel like
Anthropic does a terrible job of explaining anything, basically. Yeah. I mean, that's not entirely fair, but like on the whole, they have a problem of like Dario just like constantly says stuff that's just like not a good idea to say, like regardless of its truth or not. And so it does not shock me that this is the case, but you're absolutely right. Pun intended.
Yeah. It's very annoying that we live in this era where like, because it used to be, you know, in the old days, you had like internal comms teams and external comms teams. You had all these people that were like very carefully curating what people would say to make sure that like what was said was like at least like somewhat accurate. You know, obviously all the PR polish you'd put on top of it. And you know, I feel like a lot of younger people were like, oh, that feels so fake. And now we're experiencing a world where that isn't happening. And we're like, oh, wait, this is just chaos. It's like every day we're being yelled at about stuff that just seems to be blatantly untrue. Why are all of these CEOs able to just say all these things? And it's like, well, we all complained about how stiff and boring all of these corporate like statements were, and they were stiff and boring because they tried to be as correct as possible while also looking as good as possible, and you get that kind of language out. And now we're seeing what happens when you just strip away all of that process and people can just kind of get on the internet and say whatever they want whenever they want.
There's this comedian guy who's on Instagram, I'm sure he's on TikTok or whatever too, but he has a bit called the PE guy that basically is like he's trying to be this like guy who works in private equity, and every like bit is about like running into this guy at a party and how insufferable he is.
My wife shows me this all the time. So I'm in pain. Like with this face, I can't even make his face, but it's
he does a thing with his teeth sticking out, or is like. But anyway,
so we're in the box today.
There's one podcast I saw him on where like his character is the one on the podcast as part of it or whatever, and the host asked him some sort of question, and he's like, "Well, Chris, I've received far too much media training to answer that question in a straightforward fashion. So, but what I can tell you is," and then just gives a total bull answer, and it's like, yeah, it's like things to think of. It's like very, very funny. But yeah, exactly. Like it is so, and yes, like, so the part of this expert control thing is like, it's very funny because of the fact that Dario's been running around saying like, we need to regulate AI, we need to regulate AI, we need to regulate AI. And then government turns around and is like banned. And then they're like, well, what? But like also, you know, not like what, but like it's just funny because you know it is sort of like the consequences of my actions is like amusing. But yeah, I don't know. Like it's definitely we'll see. It's interesting times for sure.
Hello, viewer/listener. Hope you're enjoying the show so far. I just want to let you know that you have already missed out on 7 minutes of bonus content in this episode so far. And this episode is actually quite a bit bonus content heavy, so there's actually an additional 43 minutes more bonus content in this episode. If you want to give that bonus content a listen and the bonus content from our previous episodes, head over to fallthrough.fm/subscribe and sign up to become a supporter today. But for now, let's get back to the show. Oh man, we got some tough problems to solve in this world, and it's not just stopping the AI from taking over everything.
Yeah, it's just the biggest thing that's made it most obvious that everything is continuing to be like breaking. I think because it splits along non-traditional political lines, it makes it feel more intense. Like people have always disagreed, right? But like I have never had so many disagreements with so many people I agree on with so many other things about, and then have some agreements with people that I disagree with many, many, many things about in ways that like it's not as And I think that makes it just feel more intense because it makes it feel like you're at war with everybody instead of just some people anymore.
Yeah. I feel like the arenas in which we have disagreed are also shifting. Like I was just thinking the other day about how people get confused by like conservative people of color or like, you know, log cabin Republicans of like gay Republicans.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, I don't understand how you could be like this. And I like have this like cheeky little thing now that I'm like really mad about wealth tax with people where I'm like, well, you're progressive and you want to like help people that are starving to death, but you still keep obsessing about Elon Musk instead. That seems like an interesting contradiction of like letting people keep starving to death instead of actually helping the people starving to death. And it's like, I haven't said this to anybody yet because I think it might make some people's heads explode. But I'm saying it in public on a podcast where I'm sure there will be no repercussions from anybody.
You won't clip yourself out of context and post it as a...
Do it.
I already did that with a gun control conversation. Oh my Lord. I did not wade into those comments, but people did comment engagement. So maybe I will clip myself out of context so I can have people arguing in the comments about what I've just said. But I think all of us have internal contradictions. We all have the ability to hold contradictory things in our minds. And like, I don't think we've always had like, you know, you might be like a fan of the Knicks, but also a fan of the Mets, and someone who's a fan of the Knicks and a fan of the Yankees. Like when you're talking about baseball, y'all don't like each other. When you're talking about basketball, you're in perfect agreement. And like, we don't have any problem understanding that. We're not like, that's such a weird contradiction of existence. We're just like, no, that's just how it is. Like you like some teams, you like this collection of teams. I like that collection of teams. For various reasons, I might despise you for liking one of those teams, and you might despise me or not even think about me for liking the other team. Like I feel like that's the Yankees and the Mets. The Mets fans are like, we hate the Yankees, and the Yankees fans are like, we don't think about you at all. A classic Don Draper meme.
I mean, I felt this way in my career, like being kind of multifaceted in that regard. Like, oh, how do you like guns? But then you're also like, you like technology. But then you also ride motorcycles, but then you also go to church. Like, what do you mean? What's going on here? Why do you not fall into this? Like, you're supposed to like this instead. I'm like, no, man, I like the things I like. What do you want me to do? And it's just, to me, that's always been weird because, you know, when I go to different, you know, places, especially like even earlier in my career, they were like, you know, working like a financial bank job. Why are you riding a motorcycle with your dress clothes on? Because I like riding motorcycles? Like, but that's not professional. You should shave your beard. I'm like, I'm not shaving my beard, bro. Get the hell out of here. And it's just, it's weird the little like the boxes that they like, so like society tries to push you into. And then when you kind of cross those boxes, it's like, man, you can't like this and that. It's like, nah, man, I can and I will. I don't give a shit what you think, bro. Like,
why don't you fit into this box that I've constructed for you out of my impression of you? It's just like, that's not how any of this works, bro.
I know, but people are people.
Yeah, people are people. I think that's a good way to wrap up this episode. People are people. If you want to understand why Mythos is banned and Fable is banned, people are people. If you want to understand why everything's chaos right now, it's just people being people. And we got to get people to people a little differently if we want to fix these problems.
Yeah.
But yeah. Matt, Steve, any last questions before we wrap up here? Or not questions. Any last remarks before we wrap up here?
Stuff is hard. Times are weird. We're all just trying to get through it. You know, hug your loved ones, do your best. We're all trying to figure it out. I don't know.
Exactly. Talk to people, build relationships that really matter. Don't anthropomorphize AI.
Or do.
Don't do it. or do.
I'm not your dad. I don't care what you do. Go do what you want. Well, no, don't do that. That's bad.
Just build real meaningful relationships, I guess, is my thing. Real meaningful, you can define yourself. I don't care.
You know, go outside, make some good memeable content or some good viral. The viral content right now, I'm loving it. I'll say this last, like New York City's viral content, even Boston's the Scots in Boston, the Europeans in New York, the Europeans everywhere in this country right now being like, oh my God, ranch is amazing.
That's a whole other topic to talk about, but like the Europeans are over here like, we were lied to about how America is, and just like, Well, let me tell you why it's called programming. And I don't mean the technical stuff. I mean the radio and TV. But that's a whole nother topic.
Oh God. You're trying to pull us into a whole nother episode, my friend.
Yeah, no, I can't go into a whole episode, but I do want to talk about that stuff because it's really funny. I many people that I know that are visiting here or whatever, or even just from social media, are just like, wow, this is not what I saw on the news about America. This is actually pretty cool. Like, y'all have barbecue and ranch and like New York's a cool place and y'all are friendly. And like, it's just really funny to see that reaction.
Yeah.
And your stadiums are actually really cool. Oh my God, your stadium. I didn't think you could host a World Cup, but you totally can. Like, what's going on? Like, yeah, bro.
We have so many stadiums.
Been here the whole time, dude. Like, it's okay.
We did not have to build any infrastructure for the World Cup. Like, we had it already.
Yeah.
And people like, oh, you had all of this. It's like, yeah, we bet had that. It's like, what do you?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? What do you know? Can you tell us how you see us, please, so we can correct this? Because I'm concerned.
Yeah. That is a whole other episode, though. We'll talk about that in September. The World Cup is still for like 3 more weeks.
Yeah.
Anyway, viewer/listener, how'd you enjoy that episode? I thought we were going to talk about more AI news stuff, and we didn't. As per usual, we went somewhere completely different, but still related. I will stand on that. We still are.
More news will happen. Yeah.
And more news will happen, and we'll have more news to talk about, and things will develop further. But yeah, let us know how you felt about this episode, on social media, the Changelog Zulip, and Gopher Slack, or anywhere you find your lovely Fallthrough host and co-host. This episode of Fallthrough was hosted by Chris Brando with co-hosts Matthew Sunari and Steve Klobnik. Fallthrough is produced by Chris Brando, and our beats are by Breakmaster Cylinder.